Yes.
Jurors, please remain standing. Defendant, please remain standing. All others may be seated. Thank you.
Pardon, may I inquire?
You may inquire.
Thank you. What say you, Madam Foreperson, as the jury agreed upon its verdict in Hampshire County Indictment 2380 CR 0032, Commonwealth versus Brian Camp?
Not guilty.
You have agreed upon your verdict?
I have.
Yeah, that's okay. If you could please give the verdict slip to the court officer.
Inquire.
What say you, Madam Foreperson, as to count 1 of Hampshire County indictment charging the defendant Brian Camp with manslaughter, is he not guilty or guilty as charged?
Not guilty.
Members of the jury, hearken to your verdict as the court will record it. Upon your oath, you do say that the defendant Brian Camp is not guilty. This is a unanimous verdict of the jury, so say you, Madam Foreperson?
I do.
So say you, all members of the jury.
Yes. You do.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you. I'm going to have you step back out to the jury room. I do want to come back and personally thank all of you for your service here today. It was with great thanks that we, on behalf of the community, thank you for your service in this matter, and I'll be back to see you and the alternate jurors in just a moment. Thank you.
My mouth is hanging open, not guilty at manslaughter. I respect the jury and the decision, but Michael and Josh, I am surprised, again, because of the 8 minutes. Even though he testified in his own defense and described why it was self-defense, I thought for sure this jury was going to say guilty based on the evidence presented. Michael, you first.
Judge, actually, I always use the analogy of if the jury was a jury of robots versus a jury of human beings. A jury of robots would have convicted this man. In the first year of law school, in the first month of our criminal law class, we were taught the duty of retreat and how it works and when you become the aggressor versus the victim. And when somebody approaches you with a deadly weapon, they are the aggressor. You can defend yourself. The minute they run away and they leave, let's just say he was running away from him for 8 minutes and Camp chased him for 8 minutes and shot him, right? In law school, we were taught that that means you were guilty of murder, right? But this is why when you have a jury of human beings versus robots, they make a human being decision. I'm sure that if I was a fly on the wall of that jury room, I would have heard them say he had his 2 kids in the room. The guy broke into his house at night. It's everybody's most visceral fear for somebody to break into their house to hurt him. This is my visceral fear, it's everybody's visceral fear. I think the jury was inflamed and they went to their most visceral fear and they made a decision based on visceral fear. I'm sure they thought that that was justice, but the law itself says that Brian Camp should not have fired that second shot. I'm riveted by this. But now in every law school, when the criminal defense professor tells you that this is a crime, a smart, an intrepid kid will remind the professor, hey, but Camp was acquitted of this, and so there you go.
And you know, you're right, it's a law exam question. This is a live shot. You saw when they said not guilty, he started breathing, Josh. You could see him, exhale and kind of look around like, did I just hear that right? This is a huge verdict.
Yeah, this one sucks the air out of the room, and Big Mike's totally right. Big Mike hit this one out of the park with what he just said, where jurors are gonna go back and use their emotions, those inflamed emotions, and are absolutely willing to ignore the facts. They are. I think that if you pull those 100 robots, every single one of them is going to go, this is a violation of the law because you were supposed to stop using deadly force. You didn't have justification. There was the 8-minute wait. Boom. This is right out of when you learn the difference between murder, manslaughter, involuntary. This is how they teach that. And this case flies in the face of everything we are taught, we teach about, and is a giant rebuke to the prosecutors because they had the facts. I'm glad I wasn't in the meeting where someone probably said, hey, you know, we should have charged this one this way. This guy really had a pretty good reason to start blasting. Not saying 8 minutes was good, but if they'd offered him, you know, straight probation or a year or something like that, I think that it's a very different plea than putting him up on a manslaughter charge carrying so much prison time in such a big sense. But goes back to the three defenses. It wasn't me. I didn't do it, and he needed killing.
Yeah, and, you know, at the end of the day, you never know what a jury is going to do. Michael, just really quickly, we're going to stay with this case, but just really quickly, does he literally walk out of the courtroom today a free man?
Absolutely. I think he walks out a free man. Absolutely. No question he walks out a free man. And I'm still baffled. I'm still disoriented by this. This verdict flies in the face with everything we were taught in law school. And I'm sure the sense of justice of those jurors just came out of them because of the fact that he broke into his house. I do think he walks out a free man today.
Wow. I mean, even with processing, he's going right on out. Stay with us. We're going to stay with this verdict. Michael Ayala joining me next for more on that not guilty verdict. I'm shocked. Stay with us.
So that nothing's holding you back.
Back on the record on 2380 CR 0032, Commonwealth versus Brian Camp.
All right, we have a verdict. Are we ready? Let's get our jury.
Yes, Your Honor.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ashley Wilcox.
And I'm Michael Ayala. We're both here today giving you your front row seat to justice.
And we begin this hour with that breaking news out of Massachusetts, where Brian Camp has just been found not guilty in the shooting death of his girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, Johnathan Letendre, back in December of 2022.
Camp actually took the stand last week to tell the jury that he shot in self-defense, but the Commonwealth said a second shot to Letendre's head, approximately 8.5 minutes after the initial shot, showed that Camp used excessive and unnecessary force. The jury deliberated for just over 4 hours before siding with Camp.
And let me just ask you, before we bring in our guest, your reaction to the verdict.
Oh, I'm very happy with the verdict, and I think the jury felt probably the same way I felt. You know, I think they didn't want to give any sympathy at all to this victim because of he set the situation up, he set the whole thing in motion, and like our guest said earlier, it's all of our worst fears.
Yeah, it is.
And Camp took the stand, which I think was important in this case,
yeah.
And he gave the jury reasons to acquit him. He explained to them that he was still moving, and in his mind there was a gun nearby. He could have gotten to it. The guy needed to be put down.
Yeah, I think you're right. If he hadn't testified, I think we'd have a different verdict in this case. Let's listen to the verdict first and then bring our guests in.
What say you, Madam Foreperson, as the jury agreed upon its verdict in Hampshire County Indictment 2380 CR 0032, Commonwealth versus Brian Camp?
Not guilty.
All right, let's bring in our guest. Still with us, criminal defense attorney Josh Schiffer, and joining us now, former prosecutor Mary David. Mary, welcome to our mix. We're happy to have you on board with us. Former prosecutor, tell us what you think of this verdict, not guilty. There was an 8+ minute time between the first shot that the state argued incapacitated the victim and the second shot that then killed the victim.
It's so good to be with you both. Thank you for having me. I am not at all surprised by this verdict. I think that everyone was kind of waiting for this to come out. When you think about it, there are so many ways to Monday morning quarterback what could or should have happened during those 8 minutes, which in an actual altercation, 8 minutes is going to go by very quickly. And the specific strategic or approach to a fight, whether you punched, whether you hit. I mean, the fact that he did initially make the first shot to the abdomen, not an area where he would necessarily cause permanent fatal injury, I think says a lot. And again, this goes back to reasonability. Was this force really excessive given the circumstances? This is a defendant who really did everything that they could, calling 911, initially trying to use a less intense force level, and ultimately was really facing fear in their own home in the middle of the night. So I really do think that the short time the jury took to deliberate says a lot, as well as just what they really thought was credible in this case.
Yeah, you make some excellent points about the first shot. I didn't even think of that. But also, I think the stuff that he waited 20 minutes. He was waiting for the police to get there. He called 911. Had they gotten there, probably the second shot wouldn't have been necessary, but they hadn't gotten there. Josh, here's the thing about the charging decision in this case, and I want to get your thoughts on it. If you're going to say to me as a prosecutor that you're going to charge him with manslaughter after 8.5 minutes, which basically manslaughter's definition is heat of passion. So he's still in this heat of passion after 8.5 minutes. If you're going to charge him in this case, and you're going to charge him with manslaughter, I don't understand why it wasn't a murder case. Because that 8.5 minutes, if you're claiming he's still in the heat of passion, well then, I think he's clearly not guilty, and I thought the jury agreed. But if you think that he wasn't, the second shot wasn't justified, to me, that's a murder, because he was not in fear for his life in any way.
Yeah, I agree. And having sat through some of those discussions, I am surprised that the state either didn't come up with some more continuation charges, some smaller charges like an involuntary or even voluntary, because the heat of the passion, it fit, but it didn't fit. And if you went by the state's theory of the case, then it was a murder. And I think it was almost signaling at that point that the state had a case that they weren't thrilled with. And the moment the jury feels that reticence, that's when they're going to exploit and really attach to the defense, a defense that is a little bit of a surprise, but certainly something the defense worked hard for. And I agree with Michael that testifying on his behalf, that is the big swinging baseball bat in these kind of cases, because the jury wants someone to attach to, and the state could have gone a lot harder.
And that was also the kind of defendant who they found credible, because we've seen defendants testify, and guess what? I think that's where the case tanks. And so this was not one of those. Let me ask you before we go back to Florida, because you and I were talking about, is he now a free man? Well, of course he's a free man, but I even argue that he may have had to go back to the prison to be processed to get out. Is that right, Michael? Because I just feel like even that shouldn't have to happen, but that's the process.
Yeah, if he was in, and I can't remember if he was still in or if he was out on bail. I think he might have been out on bail, but if he wasn't, he goes back now, and there's this whole process you got to go through, and it could take up to a couple of hours to go through that whole process to be free. But I can tell you, as many hours as it takes, any defendant is more than happy to go through it, because he knows at the end of the road, he's free.
Yeah, I know, you're right, you're right. He's a free man, not guilty. All right, did you have something you wanted to add, please?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to point out that as far as going to the credibility of the victim here, and going to the credibility of the defendant during his statement, the fact that he experienced a traumatic event, having someone try to enter his home and engage in this altercation. And so that does have an impact on your recollection of what's happening. And so I wasn't surprised that there were maybe gaps or, hesitations in his story. And I think that the jury felt that as well.
Yeah.
And even in his decision making, after having experienced the trauma that he experienced, I think this jury said, look, we're not going to second guess his decisions in that circumstance.
Yeah. And it is everybody's worst nightmare that somebody breaks into your home like that, especially with your kids there. Forget it.